Good afternoon, ladies. It is week 4. Maybe look at the words and we'll see. I want to show you what you're going to do with the these little cushions that you have created. Okay, we did this last week. We just went through and made, what was it, 112 of these little cushions. It's actually been 10 days since I recorded week 3. So I want you to count out 48 of them, and 48 were going to be treated this way. So count out 48. As you can see, the cat hasn't moved. It's easiest to cut this into quarters. We're going to cut it into quarters from corner to corner. It's easiest if you orient it in a diamond shape. And cut from corner to corner. And just be careful that the ruler doesn't slide. Okay. This makes 4 quarter square or half square triangles. There's my thing. Normally I would press this down with my ironing board, but I want to just continue with this video, which is just fascinating, isn't it? I have found something that is just intriguing to me. I have always put together this type of block in a way that didn't give me true centers. It made the center be difficult. But the way I'm doing it today, oh my goodness, and it's just trimming. It's trimming. Trimming is the most amazing thing. So I have this ruler called the Lock Block. And if you don't have one, it's okay. It's just that this is a brilliant invention because it has a groove back here that the seam allowance actually fits inside of. And that just, it locks the block into position. So these blocks now cut from this corner to corner on the bias, they are too big and they need to be trimmed down to 2 3/4 inches. So you take the lock block, and I can't stress to you the great importance of being accurate in your cutting. Accuracy just matters. It just matters. So I'm making this. I'm locking the block inside the groove, and making it at bigger than 2 3/4. And I'm going to turn this over and turn the lock block over. And I know there's supposed to be a technique where you can turn the lock block and the fabric at the same time, but I'm not good at that. I'm terrible at that. So rather than frustrate myself, I'm doing it this way. Now I have a perfectly square, corners are lined up perfectly 2 3/4 inch. I'm going to do that, and you're going to watch me do it on all of these as we go through this particular one, but hopefully it'll give you an idea of how to do this. Now if you have a traditional ruler, no worries. Just try to be as accurate as possible. The cool thing is that I can pull this against that seam when I'm pressing down on it, and it just locks right in there and makes it absolutely perfect. I know that the 3 women who went with me on Shop Hop like 4 years ago, whoops, didn't turn it around, at Shop Hop 4 years ago, all have one of these because we all ordered them from that little shop out in Peoria that's now closed. The thing is, you have to remember to turn it over. So on this particular example, the word lock block is always on the opposite side of the color. Because if you don't turn it over, well, you're just gonna, the whole world is gonna not make any sense to you at all. And you're gonna be going, why is that so weird? So one more, and we will be done with this phase part. Now, the thing that I also want you to know about this is you have to deal with each individual block on its own. So this is what I'm creating, and each one has to have its own set of 4 greens, 4 yellows, so the same fabric has to be in each one. So this week, as you go through this process, you're going to make all of them the same. Okay, now they all have to be oriented. Let me put this in the right direction. They all have to be oriented like this. These 48 only have to be oriented like this. Don't go doing all of them. Leave the other 64 alone. This is just these 48. So we're going to upper right with the color. And this one, upper right with the color. And this one, lower left with the color. So see what it creates is this little feather at the other end of an arrow, the feather that goes like that. You can kind of see it a lot better here. The feather goes like this. Now cutting accurately, oh my word, what's cutting accurately has made me is these little points all in the center of every single one of these is lining up perfectly. I can't believe it. So come on over to my machine. We're going to reorient the camera and I'm going to show you how I put these together. Okay, so we're back over to my sewing machine. I can't tell you how many times I have reshot this portion of the video because I can't get my camera to stay in focus. So it just must be destined to be blurry at this point. Okay, so I'm orienting my square again with upper right, and lower left, and I'm ready to sew it together. So hoping that this is in focus, we're going to go through the process of sewing this together. And remember, you have to do each one of these blocks separately. Now I'm just sounding mean. It's because I'm mad. I'm mad at my stupid computer. No, my computer's fine, my camera, which is probably a computer too. Okay, so you're going to sew these together, and something that I've discovered, which shouldn't be a shock to anybody who's been in quilting for any length of time, but accurate cutting and accurate quarter inches and stitching really make a difference in making these blocks come out right. I have struggled with half square triangles forever, getting the points to be accurate, but I'm telling you, using that lock block ruler and being consistent in my 1/4 of an inch seam allowance has really made a difference. So that when I stitch this off now, this from this distance from the point down to here is exactly 1/4 of an inch, and it matches this from this point here up to the edge of the fabric. So that when I put them together, they're going to match up and make perfect points. But I wanted to tell you, I just finger pressed. I didn't go to my ironing board. Finger pressed this seam allowance on the bottom half towards the right, this seam allowance on the top half to the left. And then when I match them up, I'm going to snuggle that right up. And again, this is another 4-patch block. It's all this quilt is, the most amazing 4-patch block quilt ever made, I swear. Oops, I swore again. I don't swear. Why do we do that? To make sure we're telling the truth, so that you know that I'm really telling the truth. I shouldn't have to swear. You should just be able to take my word for it, right? Because I said it. Okay, so now I'm going to stitch through with the needle in the down position. I'm going to stop at that center seam, pull my needle out, my pin out, so that the needle of my machine doesn't go over it. I don't want to break my needle. I don't want to distort the stitching. And I want to make sure that when I pass over that, I continue to go straight into a straight seam allowance. And if I've maintained my seam allowance and I've cut accurately and I've stitched accurately, when I open this up, it is so perfect. It's just perfect where this is coming together. I have never had this experience. Every one of these is perfect. Okay, so now at this point, I want you to press this seam open. And I am going to use my iron, but for demonstration purpose, I want you to press this open. These two seams that snuggle together will go in opposite directions. Press this really hard, then turn it over on this side and press it really hard. Then put a ruler on top of it while it's still hot and a bottle of something on top of it that's heavy to weight it down, and work on the next one while this one cools. Then when you're done, the one that just was pressed, look how flat that is. I hope you can see how flat that is. It's just amazing how flat it is. So I hope this was a clear video. I hope you could see it, because I'm not going to make it again. See ya.